Although I did enjoy the delicious irony of a deluded TSM fan, Sam Bankman-Fried, who himself was egregiously unethical, bringing down TSM League of Legends. Like, that actually hits just right for me, guys. Like, it is perfect.
What's up, world? Thanks for waiting for us here over at Power Spike. We're in playoffs. It means only quality, lack of quantity, though. So we don't have to wade through a bunch of crap games. Dgon, Dom, and Monty here to break down the world of LoL esports.
We're still LCS, let's be honest.
Those weren't great. I mean, they're great if you're a Cloud9 fan. They're great if you're a Golden Guardians fan. You know, I don't.
What?
Not a lot
fans?
of them. Yeah.
It's Dgon. You are the fan. You are the Golden Guardians.
I am in there. I am in their Discord. Let's see how big their Discord is. I can quick peek here. Oh, the member list is hidden. They hid it from me. Okay.
Of course they did. All 23 people in there.
they did a reorganization.
15 of them Discord. Are Golden Guardian staff, by the way, and one of them is Dgon.
Oh, yeah, I'm still staff in there. Monty, how are you, man?
I've been a little sick. But yeah. Otherwise, enjoying the LCK playoffs. I actually kind of enjoying the LCS playoffs. I did like that Golden Guardians completely shit on EG. I did enjoy that.
Yeah. Suck it, organization of EG. Players, teams of EG feel bad, but orgs suck it.
I mean, also hilariously, I don't know if you guys saw this, but in VCT and Valorant, the Cloud9 roster without Ye put EG in the dumpster in that league as well. So it's going real bad for EG over there. Although nobody actually saw that match because 80% of the viewership was actually like on co-streams, which is definitely the sign of a healthy esport. I tuned in and Tarek had 75,000 viewers and the official stream had 18,000. And then a smattering here there. Sinatra had like 5 or 6. So yeah, definitely a healthy esport when 80% plus is co-streaming viewership. Definitely.
Yeah, I wonder why they don't want to allow co-streaming for MSI and Worlds. Seems strange.
Well, they do, just not from you.
Yeah, from Sykkuno. Get the Sykkuno commentary.
Yeah, just not from you, Dom. Just not from you.
Well, Sykkuno, I don't know if you knew this, but Sykkuno started with League.
Oh yeah, so many years ago. It's not like there are hundreds of millions of people in the world who have played League that can just claim that they made some League content a few years ago, right?
Yeah, but he started with League, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Dom, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I watched my favorite team take out what was projected to be a top 2 team across literally everything in LPL. So, yeah, my stupid ass team is getting better. You know what's actually the truth about OMG? It's not that they've necessarily gotten better as a team. It's that Riot has just added more champions to the game that they can play. So now Cassante is available. And Yone came out, I think, in end of S10, S11, whatever, and end of S11 or end of S10. So then when it became viable, then now you have Cream that can play Yone. So now there's just too many champions to ban in the game versus OMG. They
let's start there.
Future MSI winner, OMG. I would love that if that happened, honestly. That would be hilarious.
Since Rookie died for this, I do hope that OMG goes to MSI.
Yeah.
I did not think I would be. Look, they beat JDG. That's all I'm going to say. They can do it. They can make it to MSI.
they beat Top Esports twice. They beat Top Esports in the regular season. People are like, it's just a fluke. Like, we'll see in best of 5s. And they just beat them in a best of 5. So I don't know. OMG, I mean, they play just a different game to everyone else. So I think that's what makes them unique.
Hey guys, this is Monty. Now on this channel, you might think that KFE would be more appropriate on the Monty and Wolf show. But here on Power Spike, we are push freezing enthusiasts, KFE. That's right. And thanks to our sponsor, Freeze Pipe, you can be too. This beautiful glycerin chamber is from the Freeze Pipe Bong XL, and you can just pop this piece into your freezer an hour before you start to smoke, and it will cool the smoke by over 300 degrees Fahrenheit. That's right. It means a cool and smooth smoking experience. And as of right now, it's April 3rd, a little more than 2 weeks until 420. So now is your time to get some great value on some new glass to make sure that you have a lovely April 20th. And to get a discount, you can head on over to www.thefreezepipe.com and use the code LFN, of course, easy to remember because it stands for Last Free Nation, at checkout for a 10% discount on your entire order. So head on over to thefreezepipe.com and pick one up now.
Well, whether it's a fluke or not, we have another F word that we got to dive into. It's fraud, our first segment of the day. Fraud alert, as we take a peek at 3 teams in the different regions that maybe should have performed better than what they did. Instead, they are packing their bags for vacation for the rest of the spring split, waiting for summer to start. And let's start there. The top 3 teams that we were speaking of, top esports over in the LPL, Evil Geniuses in North America, and Hanwha Life Esports, the super team in LCK.
Well, and the reason why we're doing it with these 3 teams is that these were all teams that were eliminated from the playoffs this week. Because, like, obviously, if we were doing it frauds across everything, like D+ would probably be in there as well.
Team Liquid. Yeah.
Team Liquid. So we're only focusing on the frauds that have recently been beaten down.
Yeah. Also, I feel like these are teams that got a lot of passes for wherever they placed, you know? Like, it was like, oh, well, Hanwha or top esports top 2 team, EG, wait till they figure it out. They're top 3, top 2 team. That maybe top 3 for EG, but like that they were given passes because of their roster composition, who they were, how long they've been playing together, for the fact for the EG core. But these 3, let's dive into who's the biggest fraud here, and we'll start with you, Monty.
Who's the biggest fraud? I mean, top has to be the biggest fraud, right? As Dom was saying, everybody had them top 2 in the world. I think I'll make a counter argument, though. I think, weirdly, Hanwha Life is the least big fraud because they didn't have a lot of expectations around this roster. I think most people who knew the players on this team thought that it was ridiculous that Hanwha was buying so high on Zeka and Kingen, given the course of their careers and their overall performance. Klid also was not particularly good last year, and there was a big question mark about whether he would be revitalized. In fact, I think the only player that we were bullish on in terms of performance was Viper, who was a very known quantity after his season last year and after his performance at Worlds. So I think Hanwha, what's weird is placing top 4 is maybe a better result for Hanwha than we might have expected because D+ failed so hard, right? And Live Sandbox started out a little bit stronger, then got weaker. But we expected Hanwha to be potentially like a top 5, like a playoff team. But were they going to be top 4?
Top 3? I thought they were going to be top 3.
I didn't think they were going to be that good.
I thought KT was going to be way worse than they are. Like, I didn't think KT was going to be top 4 with their roster. I mean, Keen came off his worst year ever.
And BDD
so
had his worst year also.
And BDD also had his worst year ever. And then Cuz has been like Cuz. Like, no one thinks that Cuz is going to be a top tier jungler in the LCK, right? Like, that's not something that people believe. People think the top junglers are going to be like Peanut, Owner, Canyon, probably. Like, that's most likely going to be your top 3 junglers. That's fair.
There was also the question about Gen.G replacing their bot lane. So, I mean, there were a lot of question marks, and maybe you could have said, okay, so maybe the established synergy between Zeka and Kingen will get them somewhere. So I guess it's fair. But I'm saying I don't think they were super fraudulent because, I mean, you said top 3. They were 4th place, right? That's not ludicrous, right?
Yeah, I would say HLE is probably the least fraudulent in terms of like where they end up placing because, I mean, getting top 3 in LCS for EG should not have been that difficult, especially with the roster that they have. They have a bunch of people that are used to getting pretty deep in playoffs. So them not getting top 3 when, like, you know, FlyQuest has a completely new team. There's no existing synergy, just 5 random players thrown on a team. Then you have, you have Golden Guardians who outplaced them, who had least 3 positions that are considered way worse. Licorice is considered way worse than Someday in LCS standards. FBI is considered to be way better than Stixay if you look at the most recent years. And then he's not on 100 Thieves anymore for a reason. People just didn't believe in him because of all of his play in the Enchanter meta, the fact that he just could not get his mythic item ever because he bought 85 pink wards a game. So EG is a team that I think is potentially more fraudulent when you think about how easy it is. Like, for example, I think EG is the worst team here by far, right? I think there's no one that's going to argue that. Like, top esports, they they're fraudulent based off placing, but they went to 5 games with OMG, and OMG actually I thought played pretty well. Like there's some things about OMG that makes them scary, and now that they've added a couple more champions to their pool, I think that this is like what has kind of tipped them over the edge recently. Tipped them over the edge is the fact that they now you can't just ban out Cream and win the game. Now that Ahri has came back into the meta, you have Ahri that's mid lane, so you don't necessarily want to just only ban mid. And now Rumble is looking so fucking scary for Gen.G. When he plays it, it looks so OP that you don't want to give that. And then there's like the K'Sante as well, which is a broken champion in Gen.G's hands. Like he plays it, he might be the best K'Sante in the world. Legit. He might just be hands down the best K'Sante in the world. The amount of like space that he creates in fights, the way that he'll set up his Q3, like we've seen, I mean, he's played almost, he's played more K'Sante. Here's a stat for you. He's played more K'Sante in this split than he's played any other champion over the past 4 splits. That's crazy. So K'Sante is his most played champion of all time in competitive play. And it just came out this year.
Yeah, he has 18 games out. His next one is Rumble with 17, and then Kennen with 14.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny, actually.
And Rumble has been his like pocket pick. So just look. Right. So now sort it by spring split and look at how many K'Sante games he has compared to the next champion this split.
Yeah, he has 8 games on Sion is the next one.
Yeah, and 18 games on the K'Sante. So, I mean, the fact that he plays it and then the win rate is obviously insane. They win almost every game and he just plays it extremely well. You see him do things in matchups that other people don't even know is possible. Like the triple proxy yesterday that we saw on K'Sante. Like that was a way that he could avoid the Gwen matchup. Normally you see Gwen versus K'Sante. Gwen is considered a counter to K'Sante. Gwen has like push in the lane. Gwen is like threatening to kill, has 1v1 potential at almost all points. And it seemed like Gen.G is just able to do things that people aren't expecting. So I think that he's just on a different level with that champion. So you have K'Sante you're worried about, Rumble you're worried about, you still have to worry about Yone, Silas was permabanned in the series, then you have Akali from Cream you always have to worry about, and then if you're going to ban 3 of those champions, that means that Aki gets to play whatever he wants, and Aki is probably the most like sus player on OMG, so if he's able to just play his Wukong every game, then he's going to be way better than he would on something else, and then you have Abel who's just able to play like Aphelios whenever he wants as well. So I think that's what makes that team good, and that's why I think that top losing, obviously it's like they shouldn't have lost, they should just be able to outplay them because they have better players, but I don't think OMG is like that fraudulent of a team. I don't think that OMG is actually a terrible team. They used to be terrible, but now they're actually decent for LPL standards. For example, Weibo lost today 3-0 to BLG. I would love to see OMG versus Weibo in a series. I think OMG would just beat Weibo in a series right now. They look way more cohesive as a team, and they really understand how to play around all of their unique picks, where before everyone was kind of good at their own pick, but there wasn't like a strategy around it. But now it seems like they actually play better as a team. Part of that's probably adding PB God, who's somebody who's actually won. He's the only player on this team that has won a playoff series before. So, I mean, it's obviously bad for like, yeah, from the whole team. It's obviously bad that Top Esports lost, but like the way Top Esports lost, at least they lost more respectably than EG lost. The way EG lost, like they just got shit stomped in like 2 hours, bro.
Too. I mean, it was a shocking speed run, but even just the number of mistakes that EG was making, like I threw up in my mouth a little bit watching Someday just like TP bot at 26 minutes after JoJo's Lissandra got chunked out, and then the Rumble just walked away and TP'd the Baron that they were already doing. Like, it's a fucking disgusting macro. And then they were just drafting losing lanes and then taking early fights, and they just ignored like River's location for like a lot of the games. Like they would see him in River, and then they would Vulcan would like walk into Tribrush and just die to a fucking Maokai that he knew was there.
Yeah,
they played outrageously badly.
Yeah, I mean,
like the game that Closer was commentating at the beginning, you could tell that he was so fucking mad about what was going on. He was just sitting there and he was like, I can't believe that he just like walks into that brush. They just saw him on the Scuttle Crab, and Rel was like walking towards Tribrush. I was like, Jesus Christ, like this is terrible.
It's the combination of mistakes. Like, okay, one person can have a brain fart and just be like completely out of it. Like maybe Vulcan he was thinking about something else. He's like thinking about like how nice it's going to be to go out to, all the restaurants in Raleigh or something. He saw the episode last week of Monty talking about Carolina barbecue. He was really excited. But the thing that I don't understand is, how does Vulcan make that mistake? You see Maokai just kill him, right? You see like him just die. You see Vulcan die. And then how does JoJo just die mid? Like you literally just saw him bot and he walks mid. It's like a solo queue game where somebody walks over a fucking ward, kills your bot lane, and then just walks mid and then kills your mid lane. It's like
no, he literally. That's
what?
right. I forgot about the mid lane because he literally just killed him, and then he walked through their jungle, and then he went up there, and we didn't see a flash out of JoJo. It's like, yeah, I mean, it was literally the easiest gank of all time.
But it's like it's such noob gameplay. It's just you're a fucking
terrible,
noob if you die to this shit. You're a noob for dying into a bot. You're a giga noob if you die to a mid. Like you just need to like it's just reportable. Dude, I'm typing to you. In solo queue, if you do that, I'm typing to you. You're getting a fucking novel written in the chat.
Can we also talk about just some of these drafts where they like pick all losing lanes, or they draft like triple AD carry, and then Inspired goes tank Maokai, so they just have no AP damage. So like Frozen Heart Licorice just completely owns them. I mean, I this is like outrage. It was outrageously bad at every fucking level. Like, why would you draft the composition they had in game one? Because even though Vulcan is doing work, like, is it because Jojo Pion can't play other champions? Did you think you were being cute with a potential, Tristana flex pick here? It's just so fucking weird. And credit to Golden Guardians. Like, I don't want to take it away. Like, their big weak point, they have very strong points in the LCS, and their big weak point was Licorice, and he played a lot better.
He played well.
Yeah, which makes me very happy because I think Licorice is a very sweet human being, and it pleases me when he does well. Maybe
it's a good dude that won. We never get to say
that. Maybe he actually started practicing the game again, but I thought like a lot of his picks in this series were very interesting, and they had answers to absolutely everything. I love the fact that they're flexing the Cassante like we see. I mean, that's taking a page out of Gen.G, right? But it allows them to get some cool counter picks like the Rumble into the top lane matchup of Malphite. So, I mean, I liked what we were seeing, but honestly, like EG just looked like they were just going to pick passive lanes and pray to God that they won, but they weren't even doing themselves any favors a lot of the time.
I hope this was a one-off split for JoJo, and this isn't who he becomes. If he becomes the fucking like bitch-ass Lissandra player sitting under his turret, like that's afraid to fight, my God, our region is doomed. He's the fucking hope. He's supposed to be the future. I was so disappointed in just seeing the way that he approached the series. It's like he literally just pulled the Dardoch, let's lose in peace. He lost in peace in that game. He didn't go out kicking and screaming. And if you compare that to another elimination game he played, right? Compare that to the game versus TSM last summer playoffs. When they're in the losers bracket, everything's falling apart. He has the Swain game where he pulls through, makes like the really fucking clutch plays. That's what ends up winning them that series, right? He steals the Drake so that the enemy team doesn't get sold. They just got buried. Like he's the one that really came to play and he came to win in the big moments. And now seeing like how he played this series, it was just sad to me. Like I think he's better than that. I don't know. I hope he got like a little bit too cocky or something, and he's like really wants to prove how good he is next split. I hope that he just doesn't become like satisfied with one championship when he's a player that could be like a generational player.
I don't know what you're talking about. Even if he has a bad performance, EG will just keep him on his contract as a streamer. So there's actually just no motivation.
Yeah, no, true. I mean, I don't know if he's going to get the same treatment though, because they actually let him sit out. So maybe he gets like preferential treatment.
Ryoma, get in there. JoJo needs a break, and we need a break for our PR front. So get there. What was my point?
All right, let's rate these things. Dgon thinks of his point. Let's rate them out of 10 on the fraud meter.
Yeah, when can we flame HLE?
Yeah, go now. Now is a great time.
Sure. So HLE, they're not all fraudulent. They're all fraudulent except for Viper. Viper is getting into it again.
He did get hard into it. He was the only reason that they even had a shot at winning anything in that series.
The thing that's so sick is it reminds me of EDG last year, where he carries every game that's like close. Any game that they're kind of in, Viper will carry if they give him a shot.
I mean,
but this motherfucker Clid, something is wrong with Clid. What the fuck is he doing in these games, by the way? Literally, what is he doing? Like, Elder is up, no one's on it. He cues over the wall. He sees people running out, and he just continues walking in as if he doesn't see them. Like, what is going on with Clid? Is he actually just trying to lose? Like, I get it. It's a hard Vi game. Maybe you don't want to play Vi into like Xayah, Veigar, but
to be fair, they had already lost Hextech Soul that game, and they had already lost Baron. Their chance of winning was extremely low.
He's the reason they lost Hextech Soul. He's the reason he ult. It's a Hextech Soul fight, and he ults the Veigar.
I'm just
all the way
saying
in the
that
back
the
of his
game was
team.
already lost at that stage.
But he's the reason they're there. He's the one that's hinting them. He ruined the soul fight, and then he ruined the elder fight, and then they just lose the game. How are you supposed to play if you're AD carry? He didn't even give him a shot. Like, he didn't even let
Can we
Viper
flame
carry.
Zeka too? Because like Zeka was really
Oh yeah,
fucking terrible. Like, how do you die in the ways that he died to the thing?
Wait. Zeka had one good match in that series, right? Was it a game two?
Game
three?
3 was bad. That Tristana game, he was
Game 2.
tacticaling it up.
Oh yeah, that was the bad one.
He was tacticaling it
Game
up
2.
in the game 3. I don't know. It was tough.
Wow, tactical is now a verb. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eddie. I'm looking for it now.
No, I mean, we could flame Zika as well. Like, the main thing that I hated was just to see how overhyped Zika was after Worlds, where like people just wanted to say like he's all time better than Chovy. Like, or they like, how the fuck did he win Player of the Year at LCK? How did he win Player of the Year?
That was absolutely outrageous, by the way. That was so like what the fuck does T1 have to do to get a Player of the Year when they make all finals? Yeah, they only win one of them, but like just because Zeka peaked really hard in a Silas Akali meta where he got every single pick that he could possibly dream of. I mean, I don't want to take away from Zeka's performance because it was fucking impressive.
Yeah,
but
he was the best player in the world.
But at the same time, like he was definitely going to come back to earth. And yes, Dom, that was egregious. That was egregious. I was very angry about that.
What month does the year start? That's what I want to know. Because like for me, the year starts in January, but for LCK, does it start in October? Like, I mean, it must, because look, I could understand Chovy it's either someone on T1 or Chovy can get Player of the Year. That I think that those are like your two options for Player of the Year. You could it's probably Zeus, but if he has like obviously he had a bad finals and a kind of bad semifinals, maybe, and he kind of like choked, like he had a weird summer where he was randomly playing tanks in finals versus Gen.G, like tanks and Mordekaiser and weak side, where his whole thing is supposed to be able to be like a carry top, like he's supposed to be the carry top. I can understand him not getting it, but like Carrier has to get it, right? Carrier has to get it, or Chovy has to get it. Or if like, you know, Faker had a pretty good year and he's obviously the GOAT, so maybe they give it to Faker or something. Maybe I'd have a little bit of a problem with that, but it's more understandable than Zika. Zika was literally only the best LCK player at one point during the entire year, and it was on one patch, because Worlds only played on one patch. It was on one patch in one tournament.
And it was after the LCK.
And it was after LCK.
All right, Dom's now mad about things that happened last year.
Yes, yes. I'm dude. I get so triggered by so much shit in this community. Like, I mean, just the amount of absolute glazing, Dgon, that was going on for Zika. The amount of glazing that was going on after Worlds, where like people are just like, yeah, I mean, look, he beat Chovy in an important series, a really fucking important series. I guess he's just better than Chovy now. It's like, come on, man. Chovy's been better than him for his whole fucking career, except for this one moment. And now Chovy's better than him again. Like, where's the respect of the players that like deserve the respect? Like, this is kind of Zika, right? Like, this is kind of the level that you'd expect from him. If you didn't see Worlds and this happened, you would not be surprised, right?
Yeah. No, of course not. But we knew this was going to happen. So you can flame HLE, but I think they are, in fact, the least fraudulent of these teams.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on it. I think they're the least fraudulent. It just depends on like how high you rated them going into spring.
Yeah.
If you really bought into like King and shit on Zeus in finals, so maybe he's one of the best top laners in the world, and Zika's the best player in the world. People were saying Zika was the best player in the world, right? If you actually believe that he's the best player in the world, and then Viper is a top 280 carry in the world, or the best player in his position in the world, and then Kingen is one of the best players in the world, if you look at it from that angle, then it's like super fraudulent, because they should just win if that's what you believe. But I don't know anyone reasonable that believed all those things. Most people said T1 was going to be the best. I know Monty said T1 was going to be the best. I said T1 was going to be the best. They should just be the best. They kept their same lineup. Everyone else changed. They were really fucking good already, so there's no reason for them not to be the best in LCK. I think that if you were delusional about HLE and you bought in, you sipped too much of the Kool-Aid after Worlds, maybe then HLE is fraudulent. But I think that HLE landed exactly where they deserve to land. I think the bigger problem with HLE is that they don't look like they're getting any better as a team. They just look like they look like FlyQuest and LCS, where it doesn't feel like they like scrim. It's like, do you get better at anything over the course of the week, or are you just the same team? Whereas like KT's teamwork is fucking good. When KT gets around an objective, they're like smart. And then I feel like Lehens adds another level of depth, even in the game that they lost, that KT lost to HLE. I mean, the idea of, okay, we took like an even fight, but Lehens has Spellbook on Rakan, and he can like TP back with Smite, and you can get like an actual like 4v3 round Baron where you have Smite. I thought that was some smart stuff. So I feel like KT is actually getting better as a team. They're pretty good as a unit, which is interesting to watch.
Yeah, their objective vision control is really excellent as well.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like Lehens is actually like mad underrated, just in general. I think he's so fucking good.
He's also going to be moving into a meta that probably suits him better because he was always more of a melee engaged support player. So it feels like he's going to be activated, more and more as time goes on.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that he's really smart. Like he's like Hillsong-esque, but with less of the downside, where he just plays the game in a way that other people don't play the game. When you watch Lehens play support, he's doing his own thing. And a lot of times you're like, what the fuck is he doing? You're like, oh shit, wait, actually, no, that's pretty smart. I never thought about that. That's at least how I look at Lehens.
All right, we'll talk about KT.
Yeah, I know. I was about to say, Dom. We started this with you justifying the top loss, and then the EG loss, and then the Hanwha Flame. Where are we at on the scale? I don't know which one you're most fraudulent.
The fraudulent level out of 1 out of 10. I give Hanwha Life a 4 out of 10. 4 frauds out of 10 possible frauds.
Okay. I'll give Clid 10 out of 10 frauds. He's the biggest fraud out of everyone on this list. He's a 10 out of 10 fraud. He is an omega fraud.
Okay, but how fraudulent is everybody else? Because right now he's only 1/5 of the team, so that would be 2 out of 10 total frauds. So where are the other frauds coming from?
Okay, so let's try to average it out. Okay, so on HLE, Zika's like a 7 out of 10 fraud. Kingan's he's a 7 out of 10. Because
so
you're going to put a best player in the world. His expectation is to be the best player in Korea. That's he won player of the year. He's the player of the year from last year. What? He just won Worlds. He's the player of the year. He's supposed to be the best.
He's not the player of the year. That was stupid. We just agreed that was stupid. It was stupid at the time.
I mean, look, that's the award they fucking gave him. That's the award they gave him. That is the bar. He is the best player of the year coming into this year.
7 out of 10 frauds. Fine.
7 out of 10. I think Kingan is like, I think Kingan played like fine for what I expected. Like Kingan's like a 1 out of 10 fraud. Life's like a 2 or 3 out of 10 fraud. Viper's a 0 out of 10 fraud. Not fraudulent at all. That guy is a beast. For my money, I would rather have him than any other else.
We have a 20 out of 50 frauds in total. Yeah. So I was right. It's 4 out of 10. All right.
4 out of 10.
Yeah.
We got there.
Wow.
Yeah, we got the 20. But my math is different. God. Wait, so how is your math on it then? What is your math on how you got to 4 out of 10? Like if you had to...
I didn't expect that. I expected them to be like a top 5 team. They got top 4. They actually did beat D+. So they're not that fraudulent, but like the way they went out was pretty embarrassing.
So who are the most fraudulent players on the lineup in your...
Okay, because I don't take into account the dumb fact that idiots voted Zeka as LCK Player of the Year, which is obviously egregious. Like I don't know what to say about that one. So I maybe had I thought Zeka might improve a little bit, but he would kind of fall back down to maybe a little bit higher than his previous level. So I would say maybe Zeka's like a 5 out of 10. I would say Life is probably... He wasn't that hyped up, but he's also not been playing that well. So maybe he's like a 4 out of 10. I do agree that Clid is very high. But also Clid had a bad season last time. So maybe Clid's like an 8 out of 10. I agree Viper's like a 0 out of 10.
Dude, that's how you know people don't watch LPL. Ain't no one watched FPX and been like, yeah, it could have been one of the players.
I mean, how these things happen is like a player's like, I need to play with Clid. And they're like, okay. Yeah. Sorry, Dread's still there, man. Dread's just waiting for that sweet contract.
What it was is the players were kind of young. They asked like, "Hey, where is the Clid?" And they interpreted that as the Clid, and then they got Clid on the lineup. That's what happened. They just learned. They just wanted to know some female anatomy.
4 out of 4. Jesus.
Yes.
Dom, what the fuck, man? This was not done like an hour ago. What the hell?
He's had a few drinks. All right.
I had my second copy of the
day. Let's go. So 4 out of EG is like EG has to be like a 9 out of 8 or 9 out of 10 for sure. I mean, they should have by all reasoning prior to the start of the season, like we would have said, oh wow, this FlyQuest roster looks really strong, but EG's basically running it back, except they have FBI.
9 out of 10 is crazy though. 9 out of 10 is like TL levels of fraudulent. right?
Yeah,
like
pretty high.
like 9 out of 10, I feel like you have to be not even making playoffs. It has to be really bad, because like if you think about all the players, if we're going to do the math on all the players, not everyone is like a massive fraud. Like Inspired, you can't say he's like a 9 out of 10 fraud. Like maybe he's like a 4 or something.
All right. 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think that's more fair.
Right.
I could do 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
You look back on it, these players, all of them going back for the last 2 years have only made top 3, right? Because FBI and someday over with 100 Thieves, that was 3 in a row. So it feels like it would be higher fraudulence then. I think that's why 7 works. 7 works for me.
Yeah. I don't think you can make it to playoffs and be a 10 out of 10 fraud unless you're like supposed to be like one of the, like, unless like T1 or something somehow didn't make playoffs. Like where it's like you're supposed to be one of the best teams in the world and then you don't even make playoffs. That's like 10 out of 10 fraudulency. Like maybe XL, a team that's supposed to be like good, competing for a title, that ends up getting 10th. Maybe that's like 10 out of 10 fraud. Like, I mean, EG got 4th, where they were expected to be what, 3rd, I think.
Yeah.
Were they expected to be 3rd?
I
thought they would probably be top 2, because I didn't think Cloud9 was going to be as good as they are.
I had Cloud9 second, I believe. I think I had number 1,
Fly,
number
Cloud9.
2, Cloud9, number 3, EG.
Yeah, I had number 2 EG. But anyway, all right. I have, as disclosure, I have not seen the OMG Top Esports, so I'm not going to rate top. We'll leave that to Dom.
Yeah, I'll rate them like they're more fraudulent than, I guess it would be like 8 out of 10. Like they should be top 2 and they got 7th, 8th.
For sure.
So I think like 8 out of 10 is fair. Like when you go down the list, I mean, there's some weird stuff in here, right? Like I feel like that's the thing that's hard to judge with top esports. Like they had just this weird like internal drama that you don't even know what happened, where like they had problems with their coach. They went from being really good to like randomly starting to lose series, and they fire their coach almost instantly, or their coach steps away because of like issues, but it just seems very weird in the timing of it. And then they become like shit right now. Like this is whiplash from what, a month ago when they were considered still a top team. People were still be like, yeah, they're probably top 2, maybe top 3. People would say, like, maybe when EDG started soaring up the ranks, maybe you had EDG top 2 with JDG, and then like top esports probably higher than Weibo and some other teams. But yeah, I mean they were pretty bad in this OMG series for their standards. I mean, they have multiple worlds winners on their team, right? Like it's a 3x world winner team. You expect them to do better, especially like when you think about the meta that we're in right now. I feel like this meta suits them all pretty well. Like they can play everything that's in the meta, but then also like Wayward randomly was playing in playoffs where he didn't play at all during the entire season. So not sure what happened with that. Like it obviously something went wrong with practice, or like maybe Chingtian was just not performing. I mean, he looked pretty bad in the recent series. It's just very weird. Like there's it reeks of one of those teams that has some internal drama that just isn't out there yet. It just seems also very weird watching them play.
In that series, Dom, correct me if I was wrong, it also felt like Wayward was constantly in the wrong place at the wrong time multiple times and not having a great series. Like when you think about players that outplayed their opposing number, right? GenG just outplayed Wayward like by far.
By far. But yeah, I would just say that GenG played extremely well for this series. Like I'm sure Monty, when you watch it, you'll be very impressed with the way GenG was playing. Like
I've seen some of the highlights and it looked really good, but
he's very good. He's the one guy that you could see moving to like a top tier team. Like out of OMG, he's definitely the most legit player, because not only does he like play all the weird stuff, but he also has that high baseline where he can play the meta champions. Like when he plays Kennen in the final game, it's a good fucking Kennen. It looks like one of the other top Kennen players from LPL. You know, his GP has a really bad win rate in professional play, but he's somebody who has a lot of respect. Like a lot of people give him respect on GP. I think Nuggery in an interview talked about how good he thought GenG's GP was. You know, he can always play Renekton. He can play Cassante is a new champion that just came out, was put into the meta. He became one of the best Cassante players. You know, he's able to play Sion. It's just his team doesn't work well when he's on a tank. They obviously need him to be a carry threat. But I feel like GenG just did things that other people don't expect. And it's so hard to play against a player like GenG, especially if you're giving him some of his core picks, because he's just doing things that other people don't do. When do you see an Ignite top laner be bot lane at 4 minutes and 30 seconds into the game? When do you see that? When is the top laner? When is the Ignite top lane? When is the top laner ever bought at 4 minutes and 30 seconds into the game? The only time we see it is this weird Scion cheese that people do level 1. Outside of that, no one's bot lane in those fights at level 5. Like, you think maybe Rumble's gonna get 6 and then roam with his ult or something, or like maybe he'll roam down for a Drake, but he just sees a fight popping off, and like you'd see this maybe if somebody had TP where they roam to fight, or they cover a dive with TP or something, and then they just go back top. But you never get into a fight in the bottom jungle and you have an Ignite Rumble just pop out of nowhere with fucking Sork boots and just one-shot you.
It was sick. It was a Rumble's
It's really
dream.
Weird.
All right. I brought us back to OMG and then Dom popped off again. All right. So an 8 for top esports. We had 8.
Yeah, they're pretty fraudulent.
8, 7, and 4. Because top esports is our most fraudulent squad for this past round. This past round of teams that got knocked out. That was a long way to get there. This our fraud alert turned into dump onto Zeka and the LCK fan voters.
I like Zeka too. Okay, I watched him before LCK fans really knew who Zeka was. He was playing in BLG, so I watched him play. I was like, oh, this guy has some promise. And when he looked good at Worlds, I was like, damn, he's like, this is a crazy fucking storyline. He went from being like a fringe like top 7 mid laner in LPL in 2021 to being a world champion the next year. Like, that is a crazy fucking storyline. I just hate when players like Chovy, like, they don't win worlds and then suddenly it's like nothing else matters in their career.
We'll get to it. The fans were also saying Chovy played badly in that T1 series, which is, I can't deal with it.
I talked to LS recently about it. We did it on Face Check, and he was talking about where do I see the fan response? I didn't actually look. I don't look at any of the fan response. Apparently, he said like FM Korea, like they were popping off about, like, they were saying that Dorn was actually good because his plays were Giga 5 head. They just didn't work out.
Mm-hmm. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Before we dive into the hot takes of the Gen.G T1 series from wherever they're coming from, let's do a quick LPL check-in because the playoffs are already on the way. As you heard, OMG, Dom's crackhead team, found a way to win over Top Esports, one of the highest rated squads. So Dom, give us a little breakdown of how things have shaken up so far.
So LPL has been interesting. It's definitely been interesting. You've had a lot of I guess perceived upsets so far in the playoffs. I mean, if you're not an OMG believer, then maybe you have some perceived upsets. But if you look at things like RNG versus BLG, RNG always had that like air about them where you felt like they would get it together in the playoffs. You're like, you know what? They started really bad. They kind of got it together towards the end. They'll be good when it matters. You know, I mean, they're the team that has won the last 2 MSIs, and they just got their ass beat by BLG. And Angel, my God, he's 10 out of 10 fraud. He's crazy levels of fraudulent. So that was interesting to see. So BLG, they were like, I guess they were slightly favored versus RNG, but people had faith in RNG. That was supposed to be a close series. BLG looked like a considerably better team. And then BLG beating Weibo 3-0. That was crazy. Like that, like if you bet that shit before the series, oh my God, you're rich now. So that was pretty surprising. And then OMG beating Top Esports is a big upset as well. I know there was a meme after the series where like they asked the juggler, like, how does it feel like to be underdogs and beat like Top Esports? And he's like, well, 6th place should beat 7th place. That's what he said. It's kind of a Giga Chad way to go about it. But I mean, so far, that's what, 3 upsets? It's 3 like 2. At least 2.5 upsets so far in LPL. So you just got to see, you know, first round was pretty expected. RNG beating TT and Top Esports beating WE. That was fine. I think that, you know, Top Esports and RNG both had one really bad game, but the other games they looked significantly better than their opponents. But I think that second round in LPL was interesting to a lot of people. And it was just cool to see the adaptations from OMG. Even if you're not like an OMG fan, they just play the game differently to everybody else. And I think that the thing that makes the game so nice to watch is they're good enough at their own picks that counters don't really exist. Like you see Rookie is one of the best mid laners in the world. I mean, he didn't play like it in this series, but if you want to go through any metric of history, I mean, like he was one of the best.
This split for sure.
Yeah, he was good. He was good this split. And the fact that he's like trying so hard to deny Cream his picks, he's like taking a Kali so that Cream doesn't get it. They're banning out Silas 1, 2, 3 every single game. When you think about players, Rookie should be one of the best players at playing into something like Silas. He's the guy that plays Orianna, right? Like that was one of the standard counters. He can play everything. into something like Silas. And they're banning out Yone in most of the games. They're banning out Akali. They're banning out Silas. They're trying so hard to contain OMG's playstyle, and OMG just still ends up just playing enough champions that it doesn't matter. And in the final game, when they don't have access to a lot of the picks that you'd expect them to really rely on to win, they end up just playing a better game than top esports. They just legitimately are better with the Kennen, the Ari. They didn't even have to rely on their like cheese picks anymore to win. They just win a straight up game. I think that that's pretty interesting. And going into LNG, I think that this is actually not as bad a matchup for OMG as a lot of people expect, mainly because of top. Like, I think the strengths of OMG match up well into LNG, and I'd be very surprised if it's super one-sided. We got to see both of those teams play a best of 3. That was our certified banger a couple weeks back. Remember, like, I kept on talking about how middle of the pack teams playing like against each other, they just have the absolute shit fest. Turns out they're actually not middle of the pack. They're like, I guess they're technically like top third of the league teams. So hey, this is probably going to be an exciting series tomorrow.
With the Billy and Weibo series, what happened in that one?
Weibo literally got gapped in.
Yeah, it happened this morning, so I haven't seen it yet.
So Weibo was gapped in every single position. I think the main thing for BLG that looks a lot better is that Yagao is just starting to look like Summer Yagao again. He's starting to just look like one of the top mid laners in the league. And when Yagao looks good, then the whole team seems to function. Let me just read a tweet right here. So let's see. Okay, so Forrest tweeted during the series. He said, "It was never Weibo, evidently. Every role getting so cancer gapped. Fuck off, man. Good night. Laughing my fucking ass off." That was a good. Yeah, I would say cancer gapped is probably the way that you could put this series. Everyone got cancer gapped.
just slamming our gamer words together into surprising new combinations.
Yep. Gamer words. Yep.
All right. Who you got going through for this LPL? I guess last third round matchup. Do you go with your heart?
I'm excited for this one. I'm really excited for LNG OMG.
I think OMG can do it. I believe.
I think they can too. Like, it's not like LNG is a one-dimensional team. Like, they're fun, but they are one-dimensional.
Yeah. I mean, LNG is a pretty solid team, but I feel like the thing about OMG is that they've gotten so much better as a unit. Like, before, they kind of were all just relying on having enough. They were like playing solo queue where they were just a bunch of one tricks that were really good at their picks. Now it feels like PB Gods created like an element of stability where they're actually able to, for example, the most impressive games for me in this OMG TS series are the ones that they lost. The fact that once they're down like 4K, 5K gold, they're actually able to like play side lanes and get resources on the map and keep a 5K deficit. They used to be the team that would just get absolutely shit on. And some of their comps weren't that good. It wasn't that easy to catch up. But the fact that they have some element of macro now is kind of scary because OMG was always the team that was just going to like out hands you in a team fight. And people would just not give it to them. They'd be like, all right, just don't give them their champions and don't give them these free fights. Play a solid macro game. Be on objectives first, force them to face check, and they're just going to go like full int engage into you, and they're just going to lose. I don't think you can do that into OMG anymore. That being said, the scary part about OMG, I mean, the way that I can see OMG easily losing is if Tarzan just completely dumps on Aki, because Aki is the worst player on OMG. So he's very limited in his champion pool, and Tarzan's really good at exploiting bad junglers.
Sure.
And Aki is pretty bad. Like, even in the games that they end up winning, like, he is just getting absolutely jungle pathing kingdom by Tien. Even though Tien ended up running it down later on in the game. If you just go first 5 minutes, first 6 minutes, jungle pathing only, oh my god, it's like Aki is getting 3 camps. His whole jungle is gone. He somehow only got 3 camps on his side of the jungle. Didn't get any of he didn't get any camps from Tien, and he's just sitting there for 30 seconds waiting for his wolf to respawn. He just sits on his wolves and just has to wait for them to respawn in his face because there's nothing else to do. It was tough.
All right, there you have it. Monty, just double checking here. LNG, OMG. I mean, LNG is your squad. This is your duo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they win this. I think they've had a good run, but they
You believe
as
in
much
OMG?
as I love them. I mean, given recent events, I think LNG, it's amazing they've gotten as far as they have, in my opinion. They've already overperformed in my mind.
Look, this is I would say the same for OMG. I think that LNG made the crucial mistake of becoming a good team. because OMG always beats good teams. If they were just pissed, if LNG was shit, if that was like Ultra Prime would like 3-0 them. But the fact that LNG is actually a pretty good team now activates OMG's superpower.
All right,
There you go.
We'll see how this one plays out. This is tonight, Dom.
OMG to MSI.
I would love that, man. That's such a stupid ass team. That would be so. I think that they're the perfect representatives for LPL. They're the
To be honest, yeah.
That's what you want out of an LPL team. You don't want EDG pretending to be Korean. Like that's not fun. Like EDG is just cosplaying a Korean team, and they're just like a worse version of it. They're like a slightly worse version of like Gen.G or like KT or something. That's EDG. I would much rather watch OMG just represent by being like, we play Rumble with Ignite top lane. Yes, we play Ignite top lane. And like, if you come up here to try to fight the Rumble, I'm going to 2v1 you. And if you don't come up to fight the Rumble, he's going to come down and try to fight you at level 5. That's what I want to see.
Well, that was the question. It was who's being sacrificed to allow OMG to go? I guess EDG. We're seeing down the future. That was like Nostradamus right there. All right. OMG. I love OMG and LNG for that last spot in the. It'll get them into the double elimination bracket with the top 4 squads, but it's been a pretty good run for them already. All right, moving from one playoffs to the next, a league in playoffs is making news about not the playoffs in our newest segment of Tough to Swallow. Might be a team leaving the LCS pretty soon, and Monty has something to say about it.
All right. You guys knew this was coming. It's time to talk about our favorite team with our favorite owner,
Fnatic.
TSM.
Oh,
right. Sorry. No, it's. I think I'm interested to hear you guys take about this, but like the reporting that's coming out, if you can call it reporting, because Travis Gafford is doing it. That's your choice, not mine. I call it content creation because that's what he calls it. He claims he's not a journalist while he does journalistic things. Super weird how that happened. It's almost like it's when it's convenient for him to be a journalist, he calls himself one, and when it's not, he doesn't. But that aside, let's talk a little bit about TSM. Now, I think TSM is making a very intelligent decision, which is that they are drawing down their business in the LCS. While they still claim, oh, yes, we are going to invest in Counter-Strike this year. We're making our biggest investment ever. But what a scumbag move if they did what they allegedly did, which is to tell all of their players, you have 24 hours to decide if you want to take LCS minimum wage or not. Remember that Reggie was also the guy who told Vulcan that he'd be flipping burgers, implying that he would be taking a minimum wage. And then Reggie goes and gives minimum wage to his own players. Really weird how that works, guys. So let's talk about this TSM thing. Now, why would they spend money if they're not actually making money? Yes, LCS viewership has remained stable, but it's far, 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 far below what it was in 2016 or 2017, right? Those numbers have decreased, and the movement of days hasn't actually decreased viewership. Remember, we haven't gotten to the playoffs yet, so we can't compare this spring to last spring fully. It might even be slightly higher. But where are the sponsors? State Farm's pulling out. TSM, man, they don't have any sponsors either. Remember when TSM said
FTX.
Oh yeah, remember when they said that FTX, that them losing FTX, remember that $200 million deal? Yeah, it's fine. We can just lose $200 million that we thought we were going to get over the next 10 years. Our business is fine. Yeah, it's not going to affect the esports division at all in any way, even though we know that a big part of that investment was because who was it? Oh yeah, Sam Bankman-Fried was a League of Legends playing TSM fan. So clearly he would want the money to go to the League of Legends team. So when that poof vanishes, guess what? You know, we don't see an LCS team investment anymore, right? They are doing the absolute bare minimum on the esports front. And I don't blame them because there's not a lot of investment in esports these days. Not only is TSM potentially for sale, but we know a lot of the other teams are also for sale. You think Dignitas isn't for sale? You think CLG isn't for sale? You think Immortals isn't for sale? All these teams would take the right offer. Some of these teams are even going out there and hiring banks to actually facilitate the transactions and find a buyer, right? FlyQuest got lucky in many ways that they were able to find a buyer so quickly. but this is really problematic for a lot of the other esports teams on the market. You're going to see a lot of them draw back. You're going to see a lot of them cut divisions or cut down to that minimum salary. This is exactly what we said was going to happen at the start of this year, guys. We said this was going to happen, and it is, in fact, happening right now. But I don't know why you guys thought that TSM was just going to continue to spend money on this team. Was it because known liar Reginald said, oh, yes, I'm never going to allow, I'd sell everything before I allowed us to become CLG.
Yeah.
Turns out that was a lie. Who could have guessed? Who could have guessed that was just fan placating? Although I did enjoy the delicious irony of a deluded TSM fan, Sam Bankman-Fried, who himself was egregiously unethical, bringing down TSM League of Legends. Like, that actually hits just right for me, guys. Like, it is perfect that shitty team would be sabotaged by their own shitty fans. Like, couldn't have ended better. Couldn't have ended better.
Yep.
Dom?
I mean, I don't really have too much to add there. I just feel like TSM is, it couldn't have happened to a better organization. You know, could not have happened to a better organization. You love to see it, and it's one of those things where they brag about profitability all the time, right? And something doesn't need to be profitable for you to do it in interest of your own brand, right? Like, I've done things that are not profitable. I appear on shows for free sometimes and that's not profitable to me, but that's like, I want to do it. It's like part of my own branding. So you could do it the same way that Riot has the LCS. If you're profitable enough and you're just like making money and you think that this is something that is not necessarily going to make you money back directly, but through the marketing exercise of having a team and having fans and having people invested in your organization, you'll make money from them down the road. If you actually perceive that to be of value and you're profitable, why wouldn't you do that? So I think that this is the problem with you constantly bragging about how much money you make. Is like, if you're constantly bragging about how much money you make and then you have to move out of your house and then go on welfare, like, you probably weren't being completely truthful about how much profitability you really had. And I guess we'll see what happens with them. But if you look at just all the decisions they've made recently, it doesn't look like it's super profitable. And like, if the only way you're staying profitable is to just cut enough people off that you like don't even have like anything of value anymore, like, what does that even mean? You know, like, at that point you're just holding on to perceived value of your organization and hoping to sell. That doesn't necessarily mean that you like made a ton of money. So for me, I think that it's just very weird to see them go by, like, just have that just consistently brag about that and then make these decisions. And I mean, we'll see. Maybe if they buy some insanely good CSGO team, but they've had CSGO teams before and stuff, and they've let them go, and they had a general manager who they were having, like, you know, scout most of the players. Apparently that guy was really overworked. They let him go. Everyone who's ever had value to the organization has been let go. Myth, they let go. Daquan, Hamlins, all the people from Fortnite that they had. Like, who is still there that is providing value? Like, where is their profitability coming from at this point?
Well, I mean, it's not coming from these divisions. It's coming from their apps and their website network, right? Like, they are profitable, I'm sure, because that Blitz app just sits in the background of your computer playing video ads that nobody sees 24/7 and just taxing your RAM. It's a piece of shit software that is designed basically to stealth serve you ads when it's behind your game or behind your window. I mean, everything about this company is fraudulent. They are selling these ads that no one ever sees.
I think that's really shady if you're saying TSM is profitable, because that's not actually TSM, right?
No, it's not.
Blitz is owned by, like, what is it called? Like
Swift.
Swift. Yeah, the Swift. Yeah. What is it? Corporation Swift, whatever. That's what actually owns. So if they're saying TSM is profitable, if that's not what they mean, it's like, oh, I'm profitable because I own this other company. Like, that is not the same thing. And I feel like that is like a very, like, that's a sleight of hand right there they're trying to pull.
Well, it's also that, you know, even the Blitz app is a lot less useful than it used to be, because Riot changed the game so that lobbies are anonymous now. And also they added their own recommended rune pages to the game itself. So I don't know what it does in Valorant, but at least in League of Legends, like,
the main thing that it does in League is camp timers. It shows you camp timers.
Yeah,
but there's other apps that do that work better. So like the one that I've used is UGG. I'm not even sponsored, by the way. No sponsor. But I've used UGG, and that one works better for me than Blitz because my PC doesn't lag when I use UGG.
Well, that's because it's probably not playing 10,000 video ads in the background of your computer.
I don't know what it's doing. It just works for me, bro. I literally don't know.
But I'm just saying, like, I think that TSM and Swift as a company is not in the best shape right now, obviously on the esports front. But even in the other fronts that they have, I think probably, they were thriving on the fact that Riot gave them API access, which I'm still shocked Riot didn't cut off API access to Blitz, during the whole Reginald bullshit, because that was something they could do to actually really punish them, is just be like, nah, we're done with this contract. Goodbye. Right. They pulled the Valorant slot that they're planning on giving to them, but there could have been much more punishing reactions to that issue. But I think that even those apps, they were thriving because Riot themselves was bad at developing those features, and Riot is getting better at implementing those features into the game. So eventually there may be no use case really for Blitz.
Yeah, remember Curse Voice, baby? That was one of the first ones that they tried to work on and try to implement into the game. I'm still kind of stunned about the whole salary thing.
I can't believe that is legal. Like, where is the LCS Players Association? How is it possible that they have contracts where you can just instantly say, nah, all your money's going away minimum?
Do you think it's legal, Monty? Because when I thought about it, I thought it might be just one of those esports things where it's actually not legal, but somebody just has to obviously go to court because of it. Because there's a ton of contracts that are not legal, like in the esports space, right? I mean, something that they say, like, I know for LEC, there's issues with like German contract law and like what you can actually like do. So, I mean, I wonder if there's similar legal issues in California that players just aren't like privy to. They don't know what they can actually, sue for, or if these contracts would hold up under court if TSM was actually taken there.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, there may also be clauses in the contract that say it can be changed at any time, but I would think that Riot wouldn't allow those. Riot has to approve all the contracts. So yeah, I don't think Riot would allow that contract to take place.
It just doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right.
I agree. But you are also correct that they may just do it and then try and deal with the ramifications later on.
Well, either way, it kind of shows the states of one of the most popular, one of the most successful organizations in the LCS, where they're at right now, which is not so good. And we'll keep tracking this as things move forward. Also, Solo has also stepped away from the organization as well. He's no longer signed to the org. So more parts moving away after Glenn and their manager and their Walter. They've had so many pieces moving and leaving over the last month. Just another name to add to that one. All right. Well, we talked about Off the Rift enough. Let's get back on the Rift for our Galaxy Brain Club discussion. Cloud9, they're on top. Will they stay on top? And will anyone get close as we move closer towards MSI? Let's talk about it. Well, we know one team's definitely going in Cloud9 to MSI over in London. Will they be number one? Will they be number two? And who else will be joining them between FlyQuest and Golden Guardians? To do that, let's take a look at this series that just happened. Both 3-0s, one dominant 3-0. Well, I guess they were both dominant 3-0s, but maybe one more expected than the other, or at least more tolerable. I don't know if anyone expected a 3-0 of Cloud9 against FlyQuest, especially after FlyQuest dumpstered 100 Thieves. But Monty, this just shows how bad 100 Thieves were at the time.
Of course. That is the correct takeaway. I agree.
But Evil Geniuses, then, they were the heavy favorite. I don't know anyone that picked Golden Guardians going into that series. Not only did they lose, but as we discussed in Fraud Alert, they got dumpstered. It was a pathetic attempt, and a props to Golden Guardians for their draft diversity. That was something that a lot of people called out. That was really good. What were some of the big takeaways from the LCS weekend for you, Monty?
Well, I mean, obviously, like Golden Guardians, I can't read too much into this. I talked about it earlier in terms of what they were doing with like top lane counter picks and flexing the Cassante. Love to see this level of maneuverability and agile drafting. Made it very fun to watch. I liked how they started taking away the Tristana after game 1 and putting in the bot lane. But again, it really was EG playing some shockingly bad League of Legends that got us to this state, and also having some weird drafts. So even in game 1, when they had certain advantages, especially based off of some good Ash arrows in their early game, they weren't able to convert because at the end of the day, they were a single damage type composition, and good itemization and better map presence from Golden Guardians, made it so it was quite easy to win. I think at least in the Cloud9 FlyQuest game, we predicted Cloud9 to win that series because they looked more cohesive. but goddamn, dude, like what a disappointment of a series from FlyQuest, particularly I would say Ayla and to a lesser degree Vikla. But Vikla's last game was just a totally shameful display on the Tristana. And then the first game was like, what the fuck is he even doing with this? Like, why are we even playing Victor? And also, why are we playing Crown Victor within this composition? You just do nothing for the entirety of the game, and you're just waiting for Prince to scale. And Ayla was just terrible. Like, he was just awful throughout this series. And you can't be this bad on a pick that has risen in such priority throughout the world, which is the Rakan. Like, this is a very, very powerful pick at the moment, and he was 1,000% abysmal on it.
Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the Crown was horrible in that game, especially if you look at what C9 is playing there. When they have things like Maokai that are going to root you from like across the screen, you can get hit by like a fucking Heimer rocket that is like a sapling. There's so many things that are going to kill your
brush and just get triggered by a sapling. Like,
yeah, I mean, you can eat like, I mean, what was Fudge playing in that game? He was playing something tanky. Was he playing Cassante? He was playing something that was, yeah. So he's playing something tanky. So I just remember thinking in that game, like, oh, yeah, hey man, you're playing against Maokai, Cassante, Leandru's time, right? Like, you definitely wanted Leandru so you can deal with the front line so you do some damage, but it was just a terrible build from Vikla. But I mean, I guess Vikla was just exposed. I mean, I guess he really just is a fraud. I didn't believe it. I was one of the people that was on the other side of things. I mentioned it on FaceCheck, but Forrest was tweeting, Perma, this guy is such a fraud. This guy is such a fraud. I watched him all year in LCK. He's such a fraud. And I was like, he wasn't that bad. Like, top 6 in LCK, that should be like the best mid laner, but he's just not good. Like, when you this is one of the things that I think is going to be really scary in the next matchup is how does he do versus Gory? Because Gory's been looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Gory's been looking pretty good, and Vikla's been looking bad since like the 9th game of the split. And everyone kind of gave him a pass because he looked so much better than people when he came in and he was playing the Silas and he had this really high level of play. People were expecting him to just kind of keep that. And when he started slumping, it's like, you know what? Like, maybe he's just having a couple off games. He'll be good when it matters. Well, he's not good when it matters now. So what do we do going forward?
I think the progress from Vikla was like be good in the early stage of the game, then into a little bit in the early game, but make up for it in side laning and team fighting later. And now it's just into in the early game, never do anything. That's what it feels like where we've gotten to at this point in time.
Well, even just the way he plays the lane, like he looked scared of Eminus. Like, didn't Eminus look like he was completely in his head the entire time? Like, Eminus is just like playing. He made Vikla look like he was just an NA mid laner. Like, he was just an NA mid laner. It's like, all right, you're locked in here in this mid lane with an import. Like, you're just gonna get dicked down. Like, it is what it is. That's what it looked like. Like, Vikla looks, I don't know. He looks like he doesn't look aggressive anymore. He looks scared to trade. He's just trying to like not get shit on. I mean, just the crown purchase is like a microcosm of his mentality in the game. So yeah, I'm kind of scared to see how they actually end up doing versus Golden Guardians, because I think that they're not much better than Golden Guardians right now, and they're considered to be massive favorites. And normally that ends up hurting you when people are expecting you to be good and you know your team's actually shit.
Yeah, I'm also just surprised by Vikla because he was quite good on KT last year, and it was kind of him and Closer in the mix for, being, I don't know, top 4 or 5 mid laners within LCK. Like, his Ahri was extremely good last year, but he was playing a lot of champions like Ryze and Silas as well, like kind of lower range, really get in your face and kind of slug it out champions, sustained team fighters. And maybe we could argue, but potentially it's just not his meta, but he has looked really quite poor in recent weeks. So maybe the skill vampires have finally drained him of whatever juice he had remaining. I think it's very difficult to see. This team absolutely could lose to Golden Guardians, which I think is very scary. If Golden Guardians makes a fucking final with this roster, it is going to be mind-boggling, considering that EG and FlyQuest, and Team Liquid were all much bigger favorites than this team coming into the start of the split.
For sure. When you're describing that type of, when you're describing KT Vikla, get in your face, make the plays. I mean, that sounds like M&S, right? That's exactly what M&S has done, regardless of how much gold he's ahead, how much gold he's behind. He's going to get in your face and make those plays that make you make mistakes. Whereas Vikla hasn't, as you said, hasn't done that in the second half of the split at all. And I guess, you can do it against Bjergsen, who's the antithesis of that. He'll sit back and wait for you to make a mistake and then capitalize on it. But Vikla can do that better than Bjergsen did. But as M&S got in his face, there was no response by Vikla. So
this is the thing. The skill vampires get to you in about 9 games. So what Cloud9 did is they made sure
one round robin.
Yeah, they started M&S 9 games later, so that when the skill vampires catch up to him, it'll be like MSI or some shit.
Genius.
Oh man. And that's so good. And the skill vampires stay away when you int. So they're like, hey, M&S, we're going to lose this game anyways. Just keep TPing into CLG and just die a bunch of times. This one doesn't count towards your skill vampire cap.
Yep.
That's awesome. That's a very, very funny way to put it. Because look, Tryndamere, Yone, K'Sante, Jace. Those are champs that M&S has played. He's played 2 champs twice. That's the most that he's played a champion multiple times. It's LeBlanc and Jace. So like, those are in your face, man. He's willing to play them. It's pretty cool to watch. A couple Silas games down when he was in Challenger as well, or Academy Challenger. It's Challengers League. Okay. Let's just a little bit about Golden Guardians here, Monty, and give them their due, because this is history making for the organization. Their first live finals where they're not just holding out signs inside saying, hey, welcome to the Chase Center. They are getting to go back to the big stage, and it feels like they deserve it. Gory is.
I mean, it's credit. Like, I mean, we thought the team would fall down because Licorice was performing so badly, even though the team was doing well. Like, we talked about how River and Gory have been great. Like, they are top 3 at their roles. Like, Gory's probably the best mid laner within the LCS right now. But could they like carry Licorice's corpse over the finish line? But I guess Jesus came and resurrected Lazarus, and so here we are. Now we have undead Licorice in the top lane, and he was playing well, and he has a diverse champion pool. I don't know what's going on. Stixxay had very bright moments so far this split, and it feels like now that Huhi is capable of hopping back on some of these engaged supports, that they're able to finish off some kills in the bot lane and have some more effective roaming. I mean, Huhi, his rel was pretty good. Like, he turned around a fight at the Dragon in game 2 of this series with some really nice engages into choke point, and like got some resets for Stixxay, and they've been cohesive as a team. They've been cohesive as a team, and they played a better macro game than EG. Now, that wasn't hard because I think EG's macro was horrendous in this series. I don't think they're going to beat FlyQuest. I think maybe that's just a little bit too much, but we'll wait and see.
What do you think, Dom, here? About,
oh man, would there be anything more sad than seeing Prince come from being like potentially one of the best imports ever to getting just gapped by Stixxay in the fucking playoffs? Like, oh man, it'd be so NA, it'd be so perfect. It makes me feel like it's gonna happen, because that's the most NA thing that could possibly happen, is just seeing Prince not go to MSI and instead we send fucking Stixxay. And Stixxay's been playing well. It's just Stixxay, like I can't forget the last like 4 years of gameplay. I want to, but I can't.
I think that's what makes it better. I mean, if it was someone like Luger or like FBI, like you're like, okay, well, but Stixxay has the plot armor. I said this last week. The plot armor for Golden Guardians is thick, and it turns out it's very thick because they're finding themselves one series away from, justifying all the decisions that the Golden Guardians organization has ever made. I can already feel it. That's what they're going to do. They're going to be like, yeah, this is exactly what we thought back in 2018 when we made the team. And I just feel like there's a strong chance this happens. I'm worried that FlyQuest just doesn't get their shit together. I'm worried that Vikla turns out maybe he's a tilter, and that's why he played so shamefully. That was the word. That was such a great word for it, Monty. It was a shameful performance.
You should be ashamed.
You
should be ashamed. Yeah.
Shameful display, for those of you who don't know, is a very hilarious Total War quote from Shogun 2, where this guy just, when your troops start running, he yells, "Shameful display." It's great. Add it to the soundboard.
All right. Well, Cloud9 wins. Straightforward. Whoever makes it on through Golden Guardians or FlyQuest. Yeah, there's no world. There's no world, right?
Look, I just hope Core JJ transfers to FlyQuest, and then we solve this problem.
That would be sick.
I do not like how Core JJ's been playing recently.
Do you like it more or less than Ayla?
less because I have no expectations for Ayla. Whereas like if Core JJ, I'm expecting to like do well. Like I expect him to be one of the best.
I think Core JJ can be rehabilitated on this FlyQuest roster. That's my.
I mean, if Licorice could be rehabilitated, anyone can. So
there you go.
Give him Prince, man. I guess he had Hans, but Hans got vampired. But then before that, he had to teach tactical. And now he's teaching.
What is he? Is
Harry.
he teaching him like how to miss skill shots? Or what is he teaching him how to do? It's like, I'll show you how to lose lane. Nice. All right, excellent. Like now you know what not to do. Like
you got it. I don't know. I just feel like it would be cool to see Prince and Core together. Also, they have Winsome. Get Winsome out there. What if that's the trade? Winsome to TL for Core and bench Ayla. Ayla just sorry, Ayla.
Fire Ayla with a cannon into the sun.
Sorry, Ayla.
Damn. It's kind of crazy how overrated everyone on that TL roster was, the TL Academy roster.
Jan, I still think Jan is fine. I think
people made it sound like they were going to be like good players though, like good LCS level players, but they were like all like mediocre to just downright bad. Like Ayla, Jan, and Harry all just looked like, I mean, Jan probably looked the best out of all of them.
He does.
But like that's not saying much, right? Like how good is Jan compared to other people in his role? Where does he rank?
6, 7 maybe?
7?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this real quick.
Oh no.
LCS fandom. Okay. You go for the whole split, right? You go for the whole split.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you the 80 carries that I think were better than him over the course of the split.
Sure.
All right. Okay. So FBI.
Yeah.
When Turtle came in, I thought Turtle was better.
Yep. Berserker, Prince, Luger.
6A, Berserker, Prince,
6A.
Luger.
Yep.
Double lift.
Maybe Tomo.
No.
Tomo was pretty good when he came in.
Yeah,
so like
I think I mean Spawn was horrific, but
yeah, Spawn was terrible.
Tomo was better.
No, I don't accept Tomo was better than
Jan? Really?
Than Jan. Yeah. Jan carried some games. Tomo did his job well in a sinking ship. In a sinking ship, Tomo did his job well.
Okay, so maybe he's like 8th.
Yeah.
Tactical's the worst. We can all agree on that.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry,
I mean, I'm not even joking. I mean, it's just like factually, he is just the worst AD carry in LCS. Somebody has to be.
One Spawn got benched. Yes.
Yeah, one Spawn. Yeah, that's like at the end of the season ends. We start seeing who's the worst AD carry. Okay, Tactical's the worst. So maybe he's a close 8th. Jan's a close 8th. Like I felt like we were promised more than that. You know, I don't know. And I mean, Harry might have been just the worst mid laner in all of LCS. I think Harry was pretty bad.
Yep. Balulu was better.
Balulu was better. Maple was better. Was better. Vikla. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is like they're all like bottom 3 in their roles. That's not. I mean, I guess it's fine for an academy player to join LCS and be like 8th. At least you're not the worst. You're better than someone, but it's not like I don't think that Jan is some amazing talent. Like I don't know if Jan will ever be the best AD carry in North America.
Yeah, not everyone's going to be Luger Poom. Sometimes you end up being Kenvi.
Yeah.
They're all from the same class.
Kenvi's sad. He was so good in solo queue. I really thought he was the future.
They just got to unlock him, man. They keep making him play.
I think he could be on a different team, Dom.
Maybe.
Who needs a jungler? All right. Anyway, yeah. All right, let's get on.
Cloud9 wins LCS. Yes.
Yes.
Does anybody take a game off them in the final? I think they win 3-1.
I think they win 3-0.
I think they win 3-0. I think it's a short day. I think we get to barbecue stores while it's still open.
All right.
All right. Well, again, that finals will be in Raleigh, North Carolina. I'll be there. Make sure to come say hi. And we can watch Caster Couch and Hotline League together if you want. Since they're doing
Caster Couch.
I mean, you know what that is, Dom.
You know what that is. It's like
the casting couch, like porn, or like
no.
What is Caster Couch? I don't know what that is.
Yeah, it's Flowers, Avali, and Raz, and usually a guest.
Oh, it's a podcast, or what?
Yep.
Like I'm not
It's
joking. I literally have no idea what it is.
It's Avali's podcast. They're gonna do it. It's on YouTube. They're doing it live.
What's
I
it
don't
called?
know.
Pastor couch?
Casting. You should be careful. The caster's couch.
The caster's couch?
I think it is. Yeah, caster's couch.
Which is a joke that I've been using since MSI 2015 about my own watch parties, but sure, they can have it, I guess.
I did to be fair to Obley, because I think it's Obley's idea. I didn't know that, but I don't know. What I don't know is like it got lumped together as in like, yes, this is a double sell podcast. All right,
they are aware that of like the joke is supposed to be like casting couch porn.
I don't think
yes.
so. I don't.
They are aware of that joke. Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, there you go.
Nice.
See you in Raleigh.
We need more podcasts in the game. I love when there's more people that do podcasts. I love it personally.
I'm starting to get fed podcasts that have like 50 to 60 views.
But I think that's sick, right?
Yeah.
Because that one thing that I hated seeing was people saying like, oh, the only reason they watch like our podcast is because there's no other podcasts. Mm-hmm. But if there's a ton of other podcasts, then you can no longer say that you only watch our podcast because there's no other podcasts. Like, you have other podcasts now. You can watch whatever podcast you want. Like, I don't want the hate watchers. Like, just watch the podcast that you like the best.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, those podcasts will be there, and then you can come see me and say all the nice things to Monty and Dom. Are you planning on coming? Is anyone planning on coming? Are you coming to Monty? I know Dom's probably never leaving the house.
Dgon, you were the first person that has came into my house since I've had it for 3 years.
This is true.
Dom's
not leaving. When I said you guys, I meant Monty. You coming to Raleigh?
I am not.
Okay.
Maybe next time.
Okay. All right. Jersey, maybe. I mean, we'll go into good old New Jersey. Okay. That's enough of LCS. We've got 2 more segments left, and they're going to Korea. LCK. Got a quick segment of keeper kick between a couple squads still left in the LCK finals to take down Big Bad Boss, Unkillable, Demon King, Faker, and T1. Will it be keeping or kicking KT or Gen.G with the best shot of making it past Unkillable King? Monty, let's go with you first. Keep or kick, KT or Gen.G? That's a little bit of heartstrings.
We know what he's going to say.
It pains me. This one really hurts, guys. I am going to have to kick Gen.G.
Not a real one.
Not a real one. Of course. Go ahead. Continue.
All right. We'll talk about the T1 versus Gen.G series in a bit. I think it was closer than a lot of fans like to pretend that it was. I think Gen.G really did have some bright spots. I actually really liked how they were cross-mapping in that series, how they were, I mean, we've seen Gen.G do this a lot, which is give up early Drakes to cross-map and, play with minion waves, push with Herald, get gold, and then try and fight on like a third or fourth Drake. Like, they like to take those gambles. It didn't pay off. I think they could have absolutely won game 2 of this series. They had some really distinct advantages that were kind of thrown away. But at the end of the day, like, it's really difficult to see Gen.G doing so poorly, especially with Doran, like, not having a particularly good series, Peanut having a questionable series as well, and then kind of their playing through bot lane was more or less what Gen.G did, and then split pushing with Chovy. And if they can't play through bot lane and we see the advantages that Gumayushi and Keria got, they just felt like they didn't have a lot of win conditions within these games. Meanwhile, on KT's side, what I like about KT is that they have very different game plans for different opponents. Like, we saw the Twisted Fate come out in the T1 series. In this series in particular, they had a plan to just let Viper have Zeri, which I don't think a lot of teams could do or arguably should do a lot of the time. They probably
would have 3-0'd them if they didn't do that, though.
Yes, that's true. This is true. We can argue that it was a mistake. But I'm saying that, like, they do play different opponents differently, and they do have a lot of variety to their champion pools. So I liked seeing the Draven in the bot side from KT. I think that especially game 2 was particularly impressive from KT. They are probably the most dangerous red side team within the draft, and most teams prioritize blue side. So having a strong red side is going to be very important in these playoffs. And the reason why they're very dangerous red side is because Keen has all of these counter picks, and like Keen has been really good in the playoffs so far. I loved seeing his Rise return to the top lane into the Gragas matchup. I love how they were punishing like the blind Yone pick. This was all great. And we know BDD can go back to the Twisted Fate if he wants to. It didn't come out in this series, but he's got the Veigar, the TF,
Talia, Annie,
the Talia, yep. And if he needs to, as we see in the regular season, why the fuck not? He can play Yone. He was very good at Yone in the regular season. So it just feels like the depth in the solo lanes from KT is absolutely enormous right now. And they're very dangerous with the Zeri, which is going to be, as we know, it's going to be probably problematic for T1 because T1 is now just perma-banning Zeri, which is smart because they're not good at playing it. But there's a lot of flexibility here from KT. So I think KT is a better team in this meta. I think they have more diverse strategies, and Gen.G, I think, was more, even though it was a competitive series, I think from them, they are a little bit more one note and kind of less fun to watch right now.
Yeah, I have the opposite take. I'd rather keep Gen.G.
Oh my, why? Because you hate them?
No, I mean, I actually think that Gen.G, the way that they play the map is actually decent versus T1. Like, the thing about T1 is T1 makes a lot of like coordinated plays where they play to kill you. But if you notice these games, even when T1 pulls off these plays, Gen.G is not far behind in gold. Even they might even be leading in gold in a lot of these situations.
Way. They extract gold from the map. They play the side lanes very well.
I think that is like a very good strength. Like they're a very unique team in that.
Are you me now?
No. I just think that that's a better angle. Like,
did we swap personality?
Hey, it's because we rationalized Peanut's play with the Krang example, and now Dom understands it, and so he's like, okay, I feel like I can't.
I actually just think they're a better team. So who do you think is going to win? Do you think KT is going to beat Gen.G?
I do. Yeah, I do.
Okay. I'm on the other side. I think Gen.G is going to win. Even though KT won both of their meetings, like I wasn't really convinced by those wins. And I think that Gen.G, like, it's not that hard for them to play a little bit better. Like Doran had a horrible series. Like he played terrible. Like, I mean, there's mistakes in almost every game. I mean, even the game they won, how many times did he get fucking caught in this game? Like, it was like, dude, can you just not? How are we getting thresh hooked? Like, how are we getting Ari charmed all the time? How are we just caught every single time? You have the most range out of everyone on your team, bro. Just don't get caught. So when I'm watching like these games, I actually feel like they have, I don't know if they have a stylistic advantage, but I think that their style is annoying for T1. I think that T1 would much rather play against KT. Even though the KT series was closer, I think the KT was playing extremely well on the day and T1 was having a very off day. Whereas in this series, I think that T1 was actually playing better and Gen.G was playing worse than what I think they're capable of. Like Doran has been, I've been a Doran hater, right? But he's been better than this. This was fucking really bad. Like this was really bad. And yeah, I mean, they can get gold leads. I think Chovy's been extremely good. Like even his LeBlanc, I think he's been extremely good. I hated the Ghost Blade that he built on Jace. I flamed the shit out of that because I mean, we got to be building our percentage armor pen, third item. We just have to. But yeah, I mean, Paze has been good. He's essentially just been Korean leave. Yep. Like he's been extremely good. And I think that Gen.G will play better into T1 in a final than KT will, especially considering that like Gen.G just beat them in the last final. Like I don't think that Gen.G is a very comfortable matchup because T1 wants you to come fight. And most of the time they're going to win. Versus KT, they actually weren't winning a lot of the fights. And I think that KT also caught them off guard. But what happens if we just see TF bans, for example? What happens if we just see TF bans? I think that instantly makes the game so much harder for them.
Yeah, I think T1 was not very well prepared for the KT series. I mean, I don't think they should have picked KT in the first place. They literally passed over Hanwha to pick KT and then looked.
But that's
confused.
Because they lost. They had like a bad. I mean, if you look at the matchup head to head, that's why.
Yeah, I mean, it still was a mistake based on current form, right? Like, it's a very different KT than they beat in the second round robin. Like, KT is dimensionalized significantly since that point in time. Like, KT is much more dangerous. But I think so when we talk about KT versus Gen.G, the last matchup was in week 7, and that was the game where it was split 1-1, and it was a really close series. But the thing is that's when the Twisted Fate came out for the first time, and that blindsided Gen.G when they blind picked the Akali, and then the Twisted Fate was picked into it. So this
and they
was
were still winning
before.
that game. Gen.G was still winning that game pretty hard until the point where like Akali was just useless. Like, didn't they have like 3K, 4K gold lead?
No, I don't believe that they
Let me see.
did. I'd have to check that. But no, KT, it was a very slow game. KT was not getting advantages with the Twisted Fate early, but it was a pretty even game from my memory of it. But it was a big draft diff at the end of the day. Like, there was so much lockdown for the Akali that Chovy basically just couldn't play the game. But that was kind of the first revelation of KT's like pick composition style that they were playing. So I think KT's more versatile. I do get.
Okay. They didn't have 3K. I'll just throw this in there. They had a 2K gold lead, and it was 4-0 in kills, and they had a Drake, and they had a turret. So like they were winning that game up until they had that like egregious like where you saw just Chovy just flashing into the fight mid lane, and then he just gets like TF ulted. They just CC him and he dies. Like, I mean, I think that Gen.G was like fine in that game, and like what happens if they just don't play Akali, you know?
Yeah, but I'm saying like that was before people knew that BDD was going to repeatedly play Twisted Fate.
Yeah.
Now people know that. So maybe, I mean, who knows? BDD might also have certain other counter picks prepared. But I also think that T1 did a very good job of downloading Gen.G. Like the Cassante ban is very smart. The Zeri ban is very smart. And they forced Gen.G
banning
to do something
Doran's
different.
brain was really smart. Like
But
that was really smart.
A very dangerous flex pick, especially on red side for Gen.G, because you just don't know where it's going. From showing the Krang picture.
There's only space for one. There's only space for one.
It's Chovy's head on top, by the way. Somebody did a Photoshop of it for us.
Nice.
But yeah, I think like this is the roadmap has been revealed. The question will be I like when we see Chovy's blind pick LeBlanc because he can play it in so many different matchups, and I think he's extremely good at the pick.
Plays it so many different ways too. Like he can
no,
play
that's
the
what
burst.
I say. Like first strike, electrocutes,
Everfrost.
Airy, Q Max, W Max, like Everfrost, like fucking everything. Yeah. Leandri's like I fucking love Chovy's LeBlanc.
He's really fucking good. He's so good. Come on. We can't be just like I was a Chovy hater, but he's been so good for so long.
Dude, I hate the narrative about Chovy. It's like, yeah, you can AFK in a side lane too. Guys, the way the team plays is to funnel farm onto Chovy, and Chovy gets a fucking ton done on cross map plays. It's not Chovy's fault if his team does something stupid when they know he's split pushing, guys. That's not Chovy's fault. Fuck you, fans. Like,
also, like, let's just be realistic. Like, if you have Owner as your jungler, you probably want to take a lot of 2v2s, right? If you have Canyon, you have Owner as your jungler, you probably want to fight a lot early. If I had Peanut as my jungler and I'm playing mid lane, I probably want to just play to like get the farm and carry the fight myself and make sure that I'm always ahead. I don't want to just, like rely on a mechanic war in a 2v2 if you have another way that you can play. I think Gen.G, like, even though I don't inherently like Gen.G's playstyle, I think that they're very good at it. And I think that that's just like what is needed from the LCK, even internationally. Like if you want to see LCK success, I think that Gen.G will just shit on a lot of teams that won't be able to deal with this. Like, for example, my favorite team is OMG, right? My favorite team is OMG. OMG would never be able, they would be so fucking frustrated. They would be blue balled so hard playing against Gen.G. They'd be like, all right, we're at the dragon. We've committed everything here. We have no teleports because of both of our fucking soul lanes took ignite. We are here right now. Where are you? And then you just see like Chovy like hitting the tier 2 top. What the fuck? Like, what is he doing over there? It's I don't know. I just think that they are I think they have a good stylistic match because T1 is that team that wants to fight you. They want to like bring a lot of like CC abilities. They want to just get to a fight that's supposed to be even and just outplay you.
I mean, it also we got to see it multiple times in that Gen.G series. If you get Faker in a weird spot, the other team will start, or the rest of the players on T1 will forget what to do and dive for Faker-san and just flash over the wall and die with him, even in bad engages.
I mean, I'm very excited for Gen.G versus KT because I can't lose. Like either one of these teams that I enjoy is going to make it to the finals. I do selfishly want a Telecom War final just because that would be sweet, and we haven't had one since 2017, I think. And KT has never won one. There have been 3 that have happened. But I would be very excited to see KT advance, but I also love Gen.G, so I can't lose. It's gonna be a fun series. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, you got excited. So we already know who's
it's
winning.
over.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was literally about to say that. I was like, Monty did pretty good, staying pretty neutral, sticking to the facts, and then he's like, selfishly, oh no.
Yeah. I'm actually really excited to see KT play. I think they'll actually
that's my
exceed my
meme.
expectations.
So that's my meme. I made it. Other people have tried to co-opt it, but that's a Monty original meme right there, vintage Monty meme. Either way, I'm happy. So
all right. Well, there you have it. Our keeper kick, opposite sides of the spectrum here for our two experts. But we'll see and hopefully get as good of a match as we had in our certified banger this week, which was T1 and GenG in that upper bracket finals. Winner was heading. They booked their ticket to MSI, but also was heading to the grand finals for LCK. Let's get into it. Our certified banger of the week. All right, Monty, you had a front row seat for this one. T1 GenG 4-game series. You keep saying that it was closer than what people thought, but to me, it felt like the one game that GenG won was just one big team fight out of some weird misplacement, and then they won that game. So it felt like that I think that's the reason why a lot of normies think that series wasn't that close, because that game got what felt like stolen away.
I would argue game 2 was kind of stolen away by T1.
Same.
Yeah. All right. Well, then there you go. This is our certified banger. Let's get into it, Monty.
So I think what's key to remember is, like, these are both good teams, and T1 is the flashier of these two teams. And fans will be like, well, why isn't Gen.G, fighting for these early Drakes? It's like, because that's how they play the game. Like, they prioritize Herald and split pushing topside and coming into the third Drake fight with like a 2 or 3 gold lead, which they had. I think the thing about T1 that is very impressive to me is that they are so good at reading, like, first off, extracting summoner spells and ultimates prior to very important engagements. And then second off, playing around what they know is up and what they know is down. And I think if you don't get that crazy Faker engage and Lysandra, it's not that it's a mechanically impressive play for Faker to claw in and flash W on Lysandra. The impressive part about that play is that he's making that knowing that Pays had used his ultimate previously. He's going to have to stopwatch. He's going to get insane value of zoning them out, and that he's going to deny the effectiveness of the Malphite ult, because there isn't going to be follow-up even if it hits Gumayushi. So it's like they read team comp win conditions and they read game state so well, and that's what they play around in team fights. And had Pays' ultimate been up, maybe Gen.G wins that fight, right? And Faker doesn't get the super good engage off. If Doran plays it differently, right? Like, he doesn't ult in immediately and kind of waste it. If he peels more effectively, or they start to kite back, perhaps there's a difference there as well. But T1's extremely good at team fighting. I think Gumayushi and Carrier were both fabulous in this series. And they changed their drafting strategy pretty significantly as well. Like, it wasn't, let's just blind pick Gnar every time for Zeus, right? Like, this time around, they were anticipating the Malphite pick, which is why they banned it in the first game of the series, and Doran was forced on this really
it was really
tragic Jarvan top.
It was really smart, because what they did is they gaslit Gen.G into thinking that Malphite was actually a good pick for them. They're like, look, it was banned in the first game. That's how powerful we are. Like, now it's up. We'll take it. Then he just runs it down 2 games. So
yeah, but they changed the draft priority pretty significantly to try and get Zeus into a better spot than he was in the series they played against KT. And they were still super successful at playing through the bot lane and neutralizing Pays and Delight. They took away the Cassante, which was Cassante was a huge part of Gen.G's win over Hanwha Life. They took away the Zeri, and I'm not sure they had to take away the Vi, because to me that was kind of whatever, considering that Peanut is just going to play Maokai and Wukong, and I don't think that Gen.G really cares about the Vi in particular.
He did play really well on Vi in the Hanwha Life series, though. Like, I thought that was probably some of the best Vi play I've seen. Like, it just felt like he was permanently just all over the map. Like, he was just getting kills mid, going top. Like, he just felt like he was running the series. So I think it was fine, personally. But yeah, you can continue.
Look, I even liked in the 4th game of the series, I liked Gen.G's draft. They had a ton of backline access with the Olaf and the Malphite and the Rakan. I thought it was potentially going to be very strong into the draft that T1 had with Jace and Varus. And they tried to take away the counter engage picks with banning the Renata Glask and the Lissandra. Unfortunately, Carrie is a very famous Tom Kench player, so it turned out that Zeus playing the Silas top and the Tom Kench were kind of aces in the hole for T1. But Gen.G, had they not inted some of the skirmishes that happened early, I think could have played a very competitive late game team fight with this draft. So I liked what Gen.G was doing. It's just that the execution was really, I think, lacking from them. And you see that they are simply just not as aware of ability cooldowns and team fighting positioning as T1 is.
Yeah. From my perspective in this series, there's a couple things. So I think that certain players had bad series. I don't think that Gen.G was ready for like the fact that T1 would play a draft like this. It feels like when you watch T1, they have like two modes. Either Carry is on a playmaker, or he's on like one of these really lane abusive like champions, like an AD carry support that's going to really just try to like push in the bot lane and just like win, right? Or he plays something like Rakan, who's, that falls into a category. It's not as much of a laning playmaker, but it is a playmaker throughout the game. So I don't think that Gen.G was ready for like a Braum pick in the game number one. I think that was something where they just ran into a really hard draft to play, because it ends up that they have Leona Wukong into Sejuani Varus, or Sejuani Varus, Braum, Lissandra. It's like one of the hardest comps to dive into that you could possibly imagine. So I think T1 outdrafted there, which one of the things that people always complain about with T1 is that they get outdrafted, but they're just so good as a team that they end up winning anyway. So I think game one is that's just a very clean cut T1 win. I think game two is easily winnable. Like it's easily winnable. Those multiple points where they could have won if they played slightly better.
Also, Gen.G had pretty significant gold edges from playing the map better.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's times where you look, and then even game one, like Peanut just started a really horrible dragon. Like he had no ult. They want to fight mid. He had no ult. He starts the Drake. Like the whole enemy team is there. They just lose a fight. And if you're playing into that type of peel comp of Braum, Varus, Sejuani, and they get a lead and they can just start running at you and they don't really have to worry about your engage, and obviously you start building more tank items and LeBlanc starts falling off, then you have this like Jarvan pick that's going Zanya's Iceborne Gauntlet. I feel like it's a pretty hard game to play. But in game two, I think that Gen.G can easily win that. And then game four, it was another game where like you just felt like Doran just shouldn't be playing Malphite. I don't know. It just seems like he just doesn't play that champion well. Cassante, there's less pressure on it. Malphite, you're really under pressure to have a good ult. But he was just trying to get way too smart with the Malphite ults. It was just not a good look for them. So I think if Gen.G plays the same game plan, they're just playing slightly better on the day, and they adapt their draft a little bit, I could definitely see them winning. Like I think that they had legitimate games versus T1. And yeah, I don't necessarily like. I feel like they play a wide enough range of champions too, outside of top lane. Like number one, I think Chovy matches up well into Faker. Like he's probably one of the best matchups you could ever find into Faker. Right now, so that's a point of strength for them. And I thought Paze really held his own within the series. Like I don't think Paze was the problem at all in the Gen.G series. So if you just have Doran play a little bit better, you get some slightly more playable drafts, or you just go to different drafts that are more comfortable for you, I think that it's definitely winnable if Gen.G rematches or Gen.G versus KT.
I think the key about Chovy and why I really like the blind LeBlanc picks is that, as we discussed, with the variety of different ways that Chovy runes and itemizes LeBlanc depending on the matchup, he basically always has pressure, which eliminates T1's ability to make the big dives and plays in the bot side that they really, really like to do. Also, it's so crazy watching Chovy set up some of these team fights, because you watch him in some of these games and he's got the Everfrost, and he will find the perfect angle to like Everfrost the backline, and then the Shock Blast comes in, like an empowered Shock Blast just nukes that person from Doran. So they're waiting for him to get the bind, and then they follow up with long range poke damage, and it's impressive to watch.
Well,
so like, I don't even mind the Everfrost LeBlanc, because the rest of the team just plays so well around it.
Oh no, I thought it was good for that game, especially like when he's playing into that type of comp, he probably wants to have a little bit of HP so he doesn't get completely one shot. And that's a quick ass Everfrost combo. Wing forward and hitting a max range route onto the AD carry and just chunking him out before a fight. That's an instant team fight win.
Yeah, and then also like the Serpent's Fang itemization against the Aphelios coming in from the Jace, I thought was really quite necessary as well, and that provided a lot of value. So I thought the itemization was not. in many cases, you wouldn't like it because it has to be executed well, but it was executed really well.
I was going to say, Faker on the Ahri had a couple of those types of charms. So what you're explaining with the Everfrost and Chovy going in, Faker had a couple of, I think I remember in the mid lane, there was one where he dashed over the wall and charmed into the lane. It was
versus Doran, but like Doran is like completely griefing that. Like how is Doran?
I didn't even find that particularly
Doran.
impressive. They're like,
really?
So he was going for the Rakan. I'm like, was he? Because they were like both there, and he could just pick which one he charmed.
Yeah, I mean, he just went over the wall and he just sees Doran in charm range. I mean, Doran got picked so many times, man. Like, how is he getting picked by everything under the sun? Like, you can't just get picked 3 times in a row as Jace. Like, just watch the games, right? Look at Faker plays Jace. Like, everyone's playing Jace in that series, right? Zeus played it game 1. Game 2, it was Chovy that played it. Game 3, you have Doran play it, and game 4 you have Faker play it. Who's getting picked in that game besides for Doran? I can remember more ins from Doran in that one game than the other 3 combined. Like, it was just crazy, man. And he's not even playing versus things that should be picking you off that often. Like, Ornalt can be hard if you have no flash, if they force you into it. That's an acceptable one. We can't be getting thresh hooked. We can't be getting Ahri charmed when we're playing Jace. We literally have like 2 screens of range on them.
This is true. Well, the other point that you hit on there, Dom, I like that Pays kind of locked in with the Xayah Rakan and felt very comfortable. The casters were like, hey, he's not pulling his feathers at the right time early on, I think, in the series. But then you realize, okay, Pays was just literally waiting for the right time.
The casters also like the Serpent's Fang Jace versus one person with a shield. So I don't think
I thought it was good because they were setting up the route onto the Aphelios and then instantly eliminating the shield with the poke. It was about execution. I thought it was executed well.
I mean, you're like the reliability of Serpent's Fang like to reduce shielding is on a backline target over going a Last Whisper percentage penetration item that also slows, and it also matters if you hit a backline. It just does more damage at that point to everyone in the game. Like it's just never the right call to go Serpent's Fang.
I agree with you, but I think the execution was there. Like, I was impressed that they were able to consistently get value out of the Serpent's Fang. Like, I don't know. It looked good because of the execution.
I don't think it looked good at all. I just completely disagree. I think it just was a suboptimal item. When you just look at what's going on in the game, and you're building the item before you actually know what's going to happen, right? Like you're going. It's not like you're like, I think this 80 carry is actually going to be susceptible to poke. If you look at what the other team comp is, it's not a reliable way. And then also, like, you're hitting shock blast into other people. There's other people that wouldn't be able to step up. Like, and also, like, you kind of side lane pressure on an Orin with the Sereldas too. I mean, Sereldas is just a much better item than a third item, Serpent's Fang. Just, I mean, it's just so good with Jace, especially when you have like an Eclipse already. I thought it was really bad, and then even a lot of the poke that he did land, I don't even think was like was the defining factor. I think that if he's landing that same poke and he has a Sereldas, the guy's dead anyway.
All right. So we have our contentious over the Serpent's Fang points, but when people come back,
a fucking Executioner's Calling as well. Like, oh my god, build a Sereldas. Like, see, if you only went the Serpent's Fang, you could be like, but it's cheaper, and he built it for a certain spike in the point of the game. Well, he bought an Executioner's too, so that is your Sereldas, by the way. That Serpent's Fang Executioner's that is the gold for the Sereldas, but that is what you chose to buy instead.
When people come back and watch this series, what is the thing that you want them to keep an eye on?
I mean, I think you should really evaluate the play of Gen.G based on their own goals. Like, everybody just loses their fucking head when they see Chovy in a side lane, assuming that he doesn't understand the rest of the map, as opposed to playing around timers and trying to cross map when the other team can't stop what they're doing in order to enact a gold lead, which is what they want. Like, basically what Gen.G does is they stack the deck for themselves by cross mapping, and then they all in on certain critical dragon fights. And we can criticize the fact that they don't win these dragon fights. Sure. Like, that's a very valid point of criticism that happens, but they are trying to get an advantage and then show up for a particular fight. They are a team that is about macro timings. Right. And the thing about T1 is they're a team that's about micro timings. They're a team that's about ultimate cooldowns, about summoner, spell cooldowns, and playing around the team fights. So it's a really cool matchup to watch, frankly. Like, it is a very fun collision of styles. But just because Gen.G didn't win this series doesn't mean that they were not playing their style well, because they were.
Yeah, I would say the Gen.G, they stylistically counter what T1 does, but T1 has better players still. So I think T1 style, like, T1 wants to fight you at the first Drake. They wish that you would just show up and just scrap it out. They want to have all these skirmishes. Even if you just look at the champions that Faker is playing, Ari, Lissandra, Gragas, all these picks. Like, he just wants to enable owner. Like, they have really fucking good mechanics. Carry is a fucking beast. They want to fight you on these timings. But they don't play their side lane super well. They do bleed out gold on their side lane. So I think that the matchup is interesting. And I don't blame Gen.G for seeding the first 2 Drakes, because I feel like that is where you can actually get a lead on T1. If you try to opt into these Drakes, I mean, sure, you can potentially win if they're having an off day. Like, I think the T1 series versus KT, I think T1 played a lot worse than they did in this series. And they got behind where they normally don't, but I just don't think that's a reliable strategy against T1. I think that first T1, I view T1 like a really good LPL team, almost, where they just want to, like, perma fight. And if you perma fight with them, most of the time you're going to lose. So the way that you beat those really good mechanical LPL teams was playing macro. And I think that this is what T1 does well. And yeah, I mean, Gen.G is just the ultimate fucking Korean team. They're so Korean. They're mega Korean in their playstyle. If OMG is the most Chinese team in League, Gen.G is the most Korean team in League.
I agree with that.
OMG versus Gen.G at MSI, one can hope.
I mean, T1 versus OMG would also be very fun, just to see the skirmishes. Like, that would be probably an extremely entertaining.
Look, this is what I would like to see. I'm down with T1 versus OMG, but T1 should not be allowed to ban any champions. It should be a best of 5 where they get no bans. If they get bans, it's fucking doomed for OMG. But if they get no bans, oh my god, that would be a banger.
Dom, I think that you would get your wish in that. I think T1 at least would play one game not banning some of OMG's champions, just to see what happened. Like, you have to understand, they're cocky, right? And they're not going to respect a lot of pocket picks. So they probably just ban meta picks and then just try and scrap it with them.
Yeah, I mean, if you go into an OMG series and you first ban Zeri, it's like, okay, OMG's about to, like, play a real fucking good game against you. If you're banning Zeri or, like, Lulu or some shit against OMG, you're gonna get into a scrap. I'll tell you that.
I think T1 would lose, like, a best of 1 against OMG for that reason. Do I think they'd lose a best of 5? No, but I don't think it's impossible that OMG would grab a game off of T1, because T1 wouldn't ban those picks.
I mean, also you have to consider that T1 is the best team in the world, right? So that means that OMG is going to be insane when they play against them. Like, if OMG played in, like, Latin America or something, if they played in LLA, they'd probably just lose every single match. Like, they would never be able to win.
And then we can watch, EDG play Gen.G, and only I will like that game.
Yeah, no one will like it ever.
Only Monty will love it.
Monty's the type of guy that watches porn, but he doesn't watch any of the sex scenes. He just watches only edging. Like, yeah, he just watches, like, the guy come in with, like, a pizza and just like talk. Like, he just watches it for the acting only.
How could he know that the pizza wasn't supposed to go here, or whatever?
He sees him start getting naked. He's like, "This is disgusting. This is vile." And he just turns it off and gets angry.
Jeez.
Right.
All right, guys.
I'm more for the burlesque titillation, right? The dance of the 7 males.
Yeah.
You never actually want to see the nipples. They're always covered. Always.
Yeah.
We sometimes we gamify words. Otherwise, we just have Monty use vocabulary. Burlesque titillation. Love it. Well, just
Monty's
in case,
the type of guy that gets turned on by stockings. Like, that's
right. The lingerie. The lingerie has to be on.
Yeah.
On or off? Definitely on. All right, let's close it out. Thank you for our certified banger. Lots of reasons there to check out this T1 GenG matchup. We have on the slate, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 best of 5 series left in the LPL, Dom. I think it's 6.
Yep.
Maybe it's 5. Yeah, so 6 there.
It's shouldn't it be? How many have we had? We've had, it should be 7, right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 left because LNG
7.
versus OMG hasn't happened yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
7.
7 matches in the LPL left. We've got 2 in the LCS, 2 in LCK, and LEC is going through their playoffs. A lot there. But we're starting to wrap it up.
It was nice to have a break from LEC this weekend.
Yeah, a lot of the comments, and by the way, I went through the comments as usual. A lot of the comments were about the LEC and the changes there, so didn't really have too many to dive into, other than the fact that someone said, "Sorry guys, I'm like Monty. 15 minutes of shitting on 100 Thieves is great content for me." So,
actually, I haven't been checking the comments. Is the light still commenting?
I don't. Oh, your boy, the light. I don't know. I don't.
He's my favorite. He's my favorite YouTube troll.
Yeah. No, he's man. He was just completely unhinged. So like, I made a comment about how like Owner was better than him, and he's like, no, Peanut is the best jungler in the world.
I love it, dude. He's just there to tell people. Like he's 1,000% just trolling. Ago.
Wait, can we show it on stream? I just found it. There's one. This one didn't even get voted, but I think I talked about Owner being better than Peanut, and he just has this one. Look at it. Look at it. Oh wait, fuck! It failed.
Wow, Dom doesn't know. Dom doesn't know how to use the clipping tool, guys. There it is.
No, it just froze.
Oh, there it is. Peanut over Owner. There it is.
Yep.
All it says is Peanut greater than Owner.
Yep. I don't know what he's watching, bro. I don't know what he is watching.
Thank you for your support, the light.
I love his comments because they're so fucking troll. And it's obviously just to annoy Dom, and he calls him "I will Tencent," which also I love.
Yeah,
because it's like, it's not even clever. It's just stupid and hilarious.
He calls me Ji Dong Ping, Ji Dong Ping. That's what he calls me. Like it's like crazy. There's a guy on Twitter that just has a post of just me behind like a Chinese flag with just a bunch of Chinese characters, no clue what it means, but like in the same
what? That's wild. I haven't seen that one.
You haven't seen that one?
No.
Really? That's pretty common. That's been like years where people have been posting that at me. Come on, man.
Because of your LPL aficionado? Yeah. Being an LPL aficionado?
People don't understand why I like LPL.
Communism?
Yeah, that's what people actually think.
That's what that flag says, yeah.
I mean,
they weren't making fun of you, Dom. They actually were just supporting you.
If we told other people in Texas that you were a communist, you'd be hunted.
Dun, dun.
Yeah. I mean, look, I just like fighting League of Legends. I just like people trying to kill each other in the game. That's what I play League for.
In the game. That's right. In the game. Monty, where will people find you this week?
Doing Summoning Insight tomorrow morning.
Boom. Done. How about you, Dom?
Doing the same stuff as always. LPL, LEC, and LCS this weekend. It's going to be crazy.
It's going to be a big weekend. I will see all of you friends over in Raleigh, North Carolina, eating some of the tangy barbecue. I have...
Enjoy. I'm jealous.
It'll be good. I'll have 2 days worth for you, Monty. And then I've got Stixay, Vulcan, and Ignar interviews going up this week. And Great. I'll have interviews with winners and losers over in North Carolina after the LCS. Awesome. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not, make sure to subscribe to our Last Free Nation channels. Please do that. Again, the editing team here has just been popping off with a bunch of great clips across all esports titles that we cover here on Last Free Nation. And you'll get it served right to you, even when you forget you want it, but you always do. It'll be right there. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. And we'll catch you guys next week after we crown an LCS champ. See ya.